So Kate and I have managed to be in the same place, and we thought it would be a really great opportunity to tell you why we do what we do in making the fertility podcast, and why we hope that listening to the fertility podcast is something that you're finding really useful. So I'm Natalie. I'm a former fertility patient and former broadcaster, hence being the audio geek in the mix.
Definitely the audio geek. And I'm Kate. I'm a fertility nurse consultant, and I joined Natalie 2 years ago.
We were just working out when we first met, which was as a result of me interviewing Kate for the podcast. And you think it was when I was
You
pregnant.
were definitely pregnant with Phoenix, definitely.
So I launched the podcast in 2015 once we'd had successful ICSI treatment, and I couldn't find the support that you will now have access to because the scene has changed so significantly. And I think I'd just seen the stuff that you were sharing and reached out.
I wish I could really remember.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
We can't remember.
You interviewed me, and we talked. I remember we talked about cycle tracking.
Yeah.
Or did we talk about PCOS?
We talked about what Kate does, which even before all the pandemic and everything, you were doing video consultations way
Yes.
before it became a thing, weren't you?
Yeah, I've been doing it 7 years. No, in fact, 8 years.
And over the years of us both being in this space and putting content out, me for the podcast and Kate just working to educate and support people, Kate started doing more and more radio stuff because she's very good at it.
No, I'm not. I'm learning everything from her.
But join me on the podcast in 2019. And if you're new to listening to the fertility podcast, what sets us apart from the other podcasts that you might be looking into listening to is obviously the combination of a former patient and a medical expert. And what we set out to do, what I set out to do and what we continue to do is to give you the facts as much as possible. Kate loves a research paper for her bedtime reading, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Research is so important, and I always think when it comes to fertility, you want to make sure that whatever you're doing, whatever you're thinking about, there's got some evidence to support its use behind it.
And that's what you'll hear from us, from the guests that we have on, from the experts. We have Dr. James Nikopoulos as our regular expert in our Ask the Expert feature. We will be introducing some new experts along the way. We've got a real interest in male factor, which is something that was my experience, and there's a whole load of conversations that we've already made on the fertility podcast, but it is also another area of the conversation that we really want to be focusing on in what we share with you. But really we are wanting you to be advocates for yourself. And we were just talking about it yesterday, weren't we, in terms of the male conversation. Because we know that often it's women that are really into the research, and men kind of feel a bit sidetracked if they've come to kind of trying to conceive, and it feels like often women take the initiative, but what's brilliant is that we're seeing more men feel confident in asking questions, and more men now sharing their experiences.
And I think it's also not only the fact that that women take the initiative, but actually men are often sidelined by, not meaning to, but by professionals, because the focus is so much on the woman. But actually it takes two to make a baby, and that's so important. And I think that we need to be considering male fertility. I don't ever want to say male factor now.
Yeah, we're changing our language. We're learning all the time.
Yeah.
And we hope that you will too, if you're going to hit subscribe and continue listening to the fertility podcast, because what we can guarantee is expert advice, lots of facts, support, because as well as the podcast, we have the fertility podcast closed Facebook group. We have our regular Thursday Insta Lives.
Exactly, which we hope we will empower you by listening to those and getting your questions answered to then go forward in your fertility journey.
So mark that in your diary, the Brew at 2 every Thursday. And we just hope that you find the fertility podcast a really great support and something that is worth coming back to again and again, because we appreciate that the podcast space is busy, and you know, as we all head back to work maybe Maybe you have a bit more of a commute than you had going from your bedroom to your kitchen table. And so you want to be choosy about what you're listening to. And we just wanted to say hi together in the same place, because it's so novel, in the flesh, and make sure you know what you've got available to you with the Fertility Podcast, because we relaunched it in February. So if you've just found us, do check out the Fertility Podcast website, where there's all our previous episodes, because we took everything off the feed to start again, because we've been making the content for nearly 7 years now. So every opportunity we have, when we're sharing a new episode, we're telling you about a relevant previous episode. And we are going to be sharing some useful guides for you to download as well. More details on that to come, just to kind of give you even more things to
information, handy checklists
to get
and
stuck
tips.
into. So make sure you keep checking out what we're up to, and we'll keep you posted. Thanks for watching.